can take a seat if you want to sit, or otherwise feel free to stand. So I'm Sharon Waters. I'm the interim director of the Feliciano Center for Entrepreneurship. We're so excited to have you here. There was some discussion, emails yesterday, last night, about what kind of snow is coming. Are we going to still have this thing? So I'm glad you're all here. We didn't want to cancel because then that was going to mess up your plans for tonight, and it was going to be hard to get the 4 speakers lined up again. So thank you for being here. We're going to do something real quick called Gives and Gets. So if you can stand up, if you just raise your hand, I'll call on you and stand up in no more than 30 seconds. Either talk about your business, what you're looking for. Maybe you're looking for someone to build a website for you, and then there's hopefully someone in the audience that maybe does that. And it's just a chance for people to connect. I really want students to get up, so if there's something, if you're in one of our ENTR courses and you're working on a project and you want to talk about that, so does anyone want to get started? Everyone's so shy.
I'll start.
Okay, and say your name, please.
Paulina Bryan, and I'm the owner and creator of Live Lawyer app. And my app is an app, if the police stop you, you click on my app and a lawyer comes up via Skype or FaceTime. You let the lawyer speak directly to the police officer, and then he'll ping your family and let them know that where you stopped and your location. And then my final phase is going to be voice activation, because what the police officer tells you can't touch your phone, you just say Live Lawyer and it'll pop up. Everything gets saved to the cloud, it's patent pending, trademark pending. And I'm working with someone in Silicon Valley.
Cool idea. We won't ask you to raise your hand if you would want to use that, right? Okay, TJ.
TJ Pingator from the Red Bank area down south. Made the trip up. I run a startup and innovation community called Upstart Garden. It's geared toward college and non-college. And I have a startup called Student Success U. We've recently put the two together. We're focused on what college doesn't teach. Whether you go the corporate road or you go the entrepreneur road, our big focus is how to make a dual income today. And also being innovative as well, and putting the two together. So I'm glad to donate 15 or 20 minutes to any student, any entrepreneur, to help them in any way that I can.
Thank you. Who else?
So, it's me and my husband. We've started a website. We recently launched it. It's called Expert Time. The idea behind the website is to bring experts and learners or seekers, whoever is seeking some expert advice, on the same platform. It's not a ticketing company, but experts can create an event and sell their event through our website. And once they create their profile, learners could seek expert advice directly or request an event and review your event and get some big feedback.
All right, who else? All right, I don't think any students have gotten up yet. Somebody's being pointed out.
Hi, I'm Piyush here. We're actually a resident startup company in the MSU Life Science Center. We are developing a surgical hemostat for brain and spine surgery, and it's just good to be on campus. And this is Richard Russo, he's the CEO of the company, and I hope to learn something today.
So a quick programming note, we have our annual student pitch contest. It's going to be, the live pitches are May 8th this year. The semifinals will be in the morning and the finals will be in the afternoon. So please come to that. They'll be in the 7th floor conference center of University Hall, this building over here. If you're a student in the audience, the deadline to apply is March 26th. If you're an alumni of Montclair State, the contest is being opened up this year to alums as well of Montclair State. You have to have a student on your team, and only Montclair State alumni and Montclair State students can participate. If you want more information, just go to montclair.edu/entrepreneur, and then you'll see there's a button right up top about our pitch contest, and that has all the info and all the rules about how you can enter the contest if you're a Montclair State student or an alumnus or alumni. And another programming note, I don't want to say too much because we're still finalizing it, but we think we're going to have a really cool speaker from Facebook in April. We've been working on this for quite some time, and in fact, She was scheduled to speak in February, and we were just about to start promoting it. And then we got a message, and she said, her contact contacted us and said, Mark Zuckerberg has asked her to speak to all the employees of Facebook, so we need to, she needs to be in California, and who cares about your event? They didn't say it like that, but so she's really high level. We're really excited. It's not Sheryl Sandberg if you're thinking like, oh my God, it's Sheryl Sandberg. But it's someone that we're really excited about. And so how do you find out about that? So we will be advertising that in our Montclair Entrepreneurs Meetup group. So if you heard about this some other way and you're not a member of our meetup group, I encourage you to sign up. We don't send a crazy amount of emails. We send about 3 emails per event when it's announced, a reminder, and then kind of right before the event. So that's the best place to find out about our events. So just Google Montclair Entrepreneurs Meetup. Okay, so let's take maybe 1 or 2 more and then we'll get started. Any other people? Yes.
Hi guys, my name is Richard Gandhi. I've got a company called Brain-Based Financial Solutions. What I do is I provide long-term, short-term loans to businesses and entrepreneurs, business acquisition loans, and loans for real estate investors. I'm part of a group of private lenders who can provide you loans even if you do not qualify for bank loans. So if you've got any financing need, come and speak to me.
All right, let's take 1 more. Anyone? Yes.
Hi everybody, my name is Victor Simmons. I have a company called Victorious Credit Endeavors. I have people with financial literacy and credit restoration. So I have folks with less than perfect credit.
Okay. So we're going to get started with the formal program. So the way this is going to work, we have 4 speakers tonight. They're each going to have 15 minutes. I'll get up real quick and introduce each one. And they're going to tell their story, whatever they want to do at 15 minutes. I'm going to be keeping time, and I'm going to have hopefully I don't get calls or anything, but I'm going to have my timer go off so that everybody hears it, and that their 15 minutes is up. And then we're going to have Q&A. We'll just bring all 4 of them up. So just save any questions you have till that part at the end after all 4 of them have spoken. And so first up is Lauren Farrell. Really excited about all 4 speakers. And again, thank you. And so thank you to Clark Lagemann, who got, besides himself, 2 of the other 4 speakers. So I really appreciate all of his help with this event. So I'm really excited because I've either heard of these people or I've heard these people speak personally, or I've heard about how they speak. And so they're really all dynamic speakers. I think you're really going to enjoy it. And so first up is Lauren Farrell, graduated from Lehigh University recently. And she's going to tell about her business making sports-focused handbags and other apparel.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me tonight. I'm honored to be here and share my story. So basically, world of entrepreneurship. It was completely new to me until I first walked through my first Intro to Entrepreneurship class at Lehigh. And when I was there, I recognized that it was the perfect blend of creativity and business, and that this might have been just what I was looking for my entire life in terms of what I wanted to do, because up until that point, I had still been undecided. And so, flash forward later on in the entrepreneurship minor, they took about 50 students for the first time ever out to Silicon Valley for a live case immersion study, where we met with entrepreneurs, VC, legal teams that dealt with everything entrepreneurial. And it was truly when the entrepreneurs from a variety of different companies spoke that I recognized they all had this amazing, intangible energy and passion that I wanted. And that was really when I said, I don't know what I want to do, but I want to be like that. And I want to have something that I can talk about like that someday. So back to college, I studied design, and it was a very broad approach. I knew I wanted to go the fashioner interior route down the line. And particularly at Lehigh, they had product and graphics. So I took a broad approach and learned a little bit of everything. And basically, as senior year rolled around, I decided to apply what they had been teaching and preaching in school. And that was oftentimes an idea will spark from a personal need that you have, a personal pain point. And for me at the time, what the pain point was that I really wasn't bringing anything out beyond a credit card, a key, and my room swipe back in college. So we'd be in these tight parties trying to dance or mingle with people, and your bag would always get stuck, and it was always so annoying. So I applied for a patent and I developed this little guy. It's a wrist wallet that looks like a cuff bracelet. So the idea is your essentials on your wrist in a functional but still fashion forward way. So this was kind of on the back burner for fun while I was at school, senior year, and then it came time to apply for a variety of different jobs. But Lehigh, not being a fashion school, did not lead to very many fights on my resume outreach and my job hunt. So finally, I reached out to a headhunter who specified in the fashion industry, and she was probably the scariest, most devil wears Prada part of the whole fashion experience, because fashion has that stigma to it. So basically, I interviewed with her, and she said, I think I might have a job that's a good fit. And I said, okay, great. And she said, tomorrow I'll be sending you on an interview to interview with the director of store operations for Gucci. And I was like, whoa, okay. I had had a couple unpaid internships at little boutique PR firms prior to this. And this was, your potential moment. And I remember she was reviewing my resume and she said, what is this manager of the men's lacrosse team? So, little side note, I managed the men's lacrosse team in college. I had a leg injury as a child that prevented me from doing sports beyond 8th grade. And I was always athletic, I was always competitive, and so to not be able to partake in sports really broke my heart. So when I got to Lehigh, I became friends with a lot of guys on the men's lacrosse team. And it turns out, small world, my grandfather and uncle had both played there as well. So I had to go ahead from the guys to see if the team needed a manager. And I approached the coach, I said, look, I've got some free time, I would love to help support the team in any capacity, you see fit. And he said, all right, why don't you come to practice this week and we'll see how it goes. So I went to practice every single day for about 2 weeks, and then finally he said, do you want to be the manager of the team? And I said, that would be amazing. So I went to practice every single day, home games, away games, travel with them. We had so much fun. And the biggest takeaway was you saw a team at its highest highs and its lowest lows, and that people really can come together and put their differences aside and strive for that common goal. So this is a big, big piece of what made me who I was in college. And here this fashion lady is like, what is this manager of the men's lacrosse team? Get rid of it, they don't care. And I was like, are you kidding me? This was such a big piece of who I was. So I remember hitting delete, breaking my heart. And she said, bring your updated resume when you go tomorrow and email it to me beforehand. So I go in the next day, I have my updated resume, and I said, here you go. Here's my resume, and she goes, wait, this looks different. Why is this a different format than the one I received? So it turns out that the headhunter sent the old version of the resume that still had manager of the men's lacrosse team, and that's how I got the job at Gucci. So you never know, where your path is going to lead you. But back to this managing the men's lacrosse team, one thing that I noticed was the moms and the girlfriends always tried to wear the team colors without necessarily wearing a t-shirt or a jersey. And so this kind of planted the seed on top of my little cuff that while I was at Gucci, I was trying to work on. But as much as they say you can build your, dream while you're at work in your off hours, fashion is very much an industry where you need to see, touch, feel, create vendor relationships. So it really wasn't working. So I decided to part ways with Gucci. And it was kind of a sad story as to how that had happened. There was a girl who was 20 years old. She was out celebrating in the city with her sister after she had gotten 4 or 5 big job offers, and she got hit and killed by a taxi cab. And I remember we went to where she had passed away, and it was just such a vivid moment in terms of nothing is guaranteed. This girl had everything going for her. She was exactly our age, could have been any one of us, any night out in the city. And that really resonated with me. And I said, you know what? I'm young, I have nothing to lose. I don't want to live with that regret of what if. So I plunged headfirst, full-fledged into the cuff. And when I started asking people where they could see themselves using it, what kept coming up was game day and stadiums. So the 10th person says this, I'm like, well, I better look at this. Why is everyone saying game day and stadiums? So competition for the cuff would be handbags for women. And after I started doing a little bit of research, I recognized not only were there very strict policies on the types of bags women are able to take into the stadiums, they have to be teeny tiny or they have to be clear. But clear, as a fashion lover, is not very cute. So I said there has to be, another way. And that's when I recognized really no one was making cute bags for that fashion-loving female sports fan. And so it went back to my time at Lehigh, where I saw the moms trying to wear colors, but not necessarily the t-shirt or the jersey. And again, there was this need with the handbag. So I pivoted away from the cuff, and I launched a line, a little show and tell, of stadium-friendly size handbags that are geared at that fashion lover. So this is one style. This is very popular with NFL wives, girlfriends. People like to customize it. It could be your son's high school basketball team, or a favorite player. And then another version. This is a popular one. So again, everything's kind of designed with a fashion first mentality so that you can take it beyond game day. It's made right in the US, but that was kind of a headache to get there. I had always wanted a US made product, and people said, "You're nuts, you're not gonna be able to make a product in the US." I said, "Oh, I really want to though." And one thing, advice to you guys, approach whatever your dreams are with big picture thinking. There's no reason to sell yourself short and lowball yourself. Dream big. So from day one, I always thought from the end of who do I want to be, what do I want to do, and then every single step that I took, I kept that in mind. So, made in the US, I wanted a US made product because I want to be able to drive 10 minutes to work someday. But turns out, they said, "You're crazy, you're not going to be able to do that." So I was guided to make my bags down in Mexico. It ended up being an absolute nightmare for the leather that comes from Italy to get down to Mexico. I have people calling me in Mexico saying like $5,000 of leather is going to be destroyed unless someone comes and picks it up in 48 hours. I'm like, but where is it? You really couldn't oversee and manage any of it. And then I opened up my boxes. I'm so excited. Open up my first production. Half of them are unsaleable because they have a defect where they didn't put enough bonded leather, which is like a cardboard that you put in between the leather and then the mechanisms on the inside, for example, like the magnet that would keep a bag closed. So that all these bags look like they had an outie belly button. So here you are, you're launching your business, this is your baby, and you have to eat half of it right off the bat. Had a custom website made, didn't end up working on the back end. DKNY came after me for my logo. So all the joys of entrepreneurship that you learn as you go. But again, if you want it bad enough and you believe in it enough, you keep going. So let's see how we're doing on time. 5.5 minutes. Okay. So is there a piece from the story so far anyone wants to hear a little bit more about? Yes?
Still made in the US?
Still made in the US. And it's been an absolute game changer. I drive 40 minutes, I'm out by manufacturers, and then I can, oversee production, make sure there's no outie belly buttons. And it's just complete peace of mind, again, big picture thinking, hiring people right here, knowing who's, working with you. Really, it's been amazing. And then it also allows for complete flexibility. If you see a trend that you want to try, I'm not waiting, 4 and 6 weeks for, a sample to get here, because that's the other thing. It's a very interesting and unique industry in the sense that you have to see how it's made and then see how it fits or this or that before you can ultimately go into full-fledged production.
I want to hear about the logistics of setting that initial plan up between Italy and Mexico and how that works.
So it wasn't so much a plan, it was just, there's a handful of different leather vendors in New York City, and then twice a year there's a really big trade show. So I had found a vendor at one of the trade shows and interacted with them in regards to what colors you wanted and how many of each skin you wanted. So the nice thing was, being that you're using colors that don't go out of season, I ordered a larger amount than usual. So that when they came over on the freight, you're paying one freight fee as opposed to multiple as time, things progress. But basically, you just place the order. They're supposed to have the customs paperwork handled on their end. You can cross your T's and dot your I's, but it's out of your hands. And ultimately, the leather was secured, but it was just like by the skin of our teeth that my samples ultimately made it back to me before I went to go do a photo shoot with my brother in Chicago. It was like things just by the nick of time made it with that first production. Yeah.
Did you have kind of an inflection point or scale point of the business where, whether it was right after that first shipping, issue, or did you have a moment when you said, I need to raise capital, I need to, seek friends and family around, anything resource-wise that helped the business?
No, it's all been my own, and then right now it's really been word of mouth, and the product speaks for itself. So it'll be like an NFL wife has a bag at a game, her friend sees it and orders 4 for her friends for Christmas. And then this past February and then March, I actually have a pop-up at Bellworks in Homedale, and that's been amazing because not only can I meet my customers, I can see their initial reactions, moment of, I can release a new style and see if it's well received or not. And I think that it's been invaluable for people to just see, touch, and feel, because that's something that you really don't get in terms of an online storefront. So 7 out of 8 people that come in go, oh my God, these are so soft. And that's something that you couldn't experience if you were only on my website.
Is that your beta round? Is that really what you're trying to, are you still proof of concept in your own head?
I would say-
You were going all along and you hear your story, you kept thinking, like, I'm going through the same thing? So I'm just curious.
No, not necessarily. It's just all along I've said I just need exposure, and so now to have more of that exposure and the proof in sales to match, like I just need exposure, that's how I know, like, all right, I'm still going. I got this. Yeah. So manufacturers, the first one, which was a disaster, was word of mouth recommendations. Everyone thinks the fashion industry is massive. It's really not. It's this big. In terms of handbag manufacturers in New York City, there's probably 600 or 700 tops. So it's really not as big as you think. For the second gentleman, there's actually, in fashion, there's a directory called Makers Row. It's a manufacturer directory, so whether it's denim or handbags or belts, whatever it might be that you need, you can, there's a membership fee, it's like $30 a year, and then you have access to all that contact information. And another thing, if anyone's in fashion, it is kind of its own animal. Like, you think you can Google something and everything will come up. It doesn't. For example, leather, there are some stores that I only know if you have word of mouth, and they're on like the 12th floor of some random building in New York. Yes.
I'm sure there's been times where you felt like, oh my God, is this thing gonna succeed? Am I gonna fail? What keeps you going? Because I think a lot of people in this room are sitting there saying, I've got a business, I wanna keep going. Maybe it's their side hustle, maybe it's their main thing, but man, I wanna keep going, I wanna be successful. What is it that keeps you going?
I think it's the fact that I love what I do, and every single day I wake up and I genuinely am so excited to go to work. And even though it's just myself right now, I feel so fulfilled on a day-to-day basis, and so that for me is enough. And then recently, I've actually partnered with a couple of different charities, and that's taking things to a whole other level. I kind of, big picture, want to take fashion and flip it on its head in every sense. So for example, making things in the US. People don't make things in the US. I'm capping production on styles produced so that you don't walk into a stadium and see 5,000 other women with your same bag or shirt. One of my taglines is personal style, team mentality. The charity portion is amazing to be able to incorporate that in at this stage of things. Again, why am I waiting until I'm established when that's something that's important to me now? So I think you just really have to soul search, know what makes you tick, and there are gonna be, I don't know if anyone's ever seen a graph like life of an entrepreneur, it's like all over the place, the highs, the lows. It truly is. And I'm not gonna lie, sometimes it feels like a very lonely path because people don't get it and you're like, you're kind of crazy, you're not like, go get a 9 to 5, be normal. But I would say it's genuinely like, it's just something that I love, and you get to a point where you're not gonna stop until you make it.
Okay, the timer went off, so.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, so great story. She took some Q&A during her portion, but there'll be time to also ask her questions later when we do that formally. And so next up is Clark Lagemann. Clark is the founder of MedPro Health, and he also is one of our most popular classroom speakers when he comes to speak. And so please welcome him.
Nearly once a month for the past 2 years, I make the same trip. 4:30 in the morning, I wake up, it's dark, go to Newark Airport. Board a 6:30 a.m. flight on my trip to LA. Same thing happens each time, 30,000 feet, get up in the air, ding! Flight attendant comes on, they're gonna walk around, take off your seatbelt, relax, they're gonna pass out some snacks. So like most times, I just rip open the package and I eat my breakfast. I don't think twice. But this recent trip, I took a moment to myself and looked and saw what I was staring at, and it's the Stroop waffle. Have you guys had the Stroop waffle before? Yes. It's very generic, to say the least. So most people do what I do. They rip open the generic package, have a generic breakfast, and a generic trip. But this time I took a look at the generic package and said, wow, there's instructions on here to not make it so generic. And what it says is put this little Stroop waffle on your cup of coffee and let it warm up. And what happens if you do that 5 minutes later, if you have a cup of coffee, it's a delicious caramel cream-filled breakfast that's pretty damn good. So I started thinking about my entrepreneur journey and some of the easy instructions I learned along the way that took me from, I'd call it a generic breakfast entrepreneur to a good entrepreneur. So my journey, I wish, started like this. I wish I was slinging lemonade, hustle as a young age. That's not me. I was not that lucky. I never had that hustle at a young age. Maybe some of the speakers tonight did, but I didn't. So my story instead started in 2008. I was sitting in an operating room at NYU, and I was a surgical sales rep. So basically I sat there and helped doctors do surgery. They were, should I cut here? No, doctor, don't cut here. Cut over there. So it's really crazy. But I was sitting there and I just saw there was a problem that no one knew what I knew behind the scenes. No one knew that doctors should be evaluated by the number of surgeries they did. So I said, well, I should build this ranking system. It'll be incredible. So a few months later, I come up with this idea for medical tourism, that I'm going to build this wireframe, and everyone's going to have this great idea about how to access information. A few months after that, simple, launch my first platform. That's V1, that's a few months in. V2 comes a few months later. What happens next? Probably V3. So this process for me was 2+ years of grinding every night, every day. And then after 2+ years, what did I do? I took a calculated risk and quit my job 2 years after the fact. So I'm not the overnight entrepreneur. I'm the guy that hustled every night, hustled every morning, hustled every weekend to make the business happen. So for me, that was my first aha, turning myself from a generic entrepreneur to a good entrepreneur. I took my time. I made calculated decisions every day to make sure my business grows, and that was the first one. So this is me, every night, every weekend. As I told you, I was grinding so hard. I threw all my attention to the business, and it was paying off. I was getting awards, I was winning different events. So this was, I think, in 2011 at Rutgers. They had the first ever entrepreneur summit, and Steve Wozniak was there, and we were picked as one of the top 10 technologies. I was, big chesting. I'm really proud of myself. Look at me go. A few years after that, same thing happened. Went to Tech Week in New York City. We were rated as the top 5 technology in the city at the time. We're winning awards, feeling good. The next year, Tech Cocktail voted us as the #1 technology in New York City under healthcare. So I had all these accolades. My friends, family, they're like, you're the man, you're so rich, look at how cool you are. I was feeling so empty. What no one knew at the time was we were burning through capital, we were running out of money, and I was anxious, stressed out, and depressed, and it was impossible. I remember getting home one day, it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. My girlfriend at the time, my wife now, she wasn't home, so I sat on the back of my porch. I call this my back porch moment. This was as low as I possibly was. I was sitting there, literally almost now, which I'm not going to cry tonight for you, but I was sitting there fighting back tears of how depressed I was, and how ashamed I was, and how little I felt, and how all my friends and family would laugh at me when they found out my business wasn't working. And literally, my family and friends were like, we're so proud of you. But I learned at that moment, and I didn't know at the time, but I learned now, is this right here. If you feel like this, trust me, you're not alone. And if you haven't felt like this, you probably haven't worked hard enough, because I did. I took it down to the bottom, and I came back up from it. So that was my second aha moment, to take it from, you're not alone, you have someone there, people are there to help you. So as I started getting this renewed confidence and started to try to get myself out of this funk, I remember thinking entrepreneurship has this endless trail. You're running forever, and the only time you have this end is when you exit a company, which most people never do. Some of us, maybe one of us tonight, might talk about that story. But most people never exit their company, so they're in this race. I remember thinking to myself, well, I need to get myself feeling better about myself. I need to finish my race and have some victory, some success. So I signed up for a triathlon, which is a small swim. It was a 10-mile bike ride, and I think a 3-mile run. So I did this at Sandy Hook. I went through, people were clapping for me. I felt like such a badass. I was like, look at me, I got my swagger back. And what happened was that next day, the next week, the next 2 months, I had the confidence back. I was pitching again. I was presenting my solution to customers. People were responding to it, and I said, wow, okay, my confidence, people can feel this in me. So I said, well, this made me feel good. I was like, I want to feel great. So I said, well, what's the most badass race I possibly could think of? And what I came across was this Ironman, which is a 140-mile race. So I said, well, I'm gonna sign up for it. My girlfriend at the time thought I was absolutely nuts. I was like, I'm gonna sign up for it next year. She's like, you are really nuts. What are you thinking? So 8 months later, this is 16 hours and 45 minutes into the race. I got across the finish line. So it's a 17-hour race. It's 140.6 miles. I'm right across the finish line, Lake Placid. At this same time, I was up at probably 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning every day training. I was running my business. I was spending time with my family and friends. I became so disciplined on all distractions were out of my mind. And what I found is that I started to have this success and confidence. So what I challenge you, if you've gone through my journey, which is maybe you're gonna quit your job one day, you don't need to rush it, take your time. Maybe you come and quit your job and you're like, I feel like a failure, don't worry, I was there. Now you're like, how do I get my swagger back? Simple. What I found for me works really successfully. Choose something that has an end line, a finish line. Choose something that someone's gonna applaud for you and clap. It makes you feel good. So for me, I like to feel success again. I wanna make sure that when you're selling and pitching yourself in your business, you're able to go out there with confidence that you have something that people care about and just do a simple race, something that'll make you feel good. I find for me, this was one of my aha moments across the past like 10 years of running my businesses. I hit that low point, I had something I was going after, and I went after it hard, and I had victory. It gave me the confidence back again. So for me, getting this success, I started telling my story a little more, started sharing it, and that's why I'm here tonight as well. Started having the opportunity to talk to a lot of places about this journey that I went on. What I found was, as I was going across these different places, sharing this story, I was meeting a lot of really cool people, awesome interns from MSU back there, she's great. But meeting a lot of really cool people, really interesting people, and I started going out a lot more often, telling my story. And one night, it was probably about 5.5 years ago, I got asked to a dinner. And a few guys asked me to come out to right down the street, which is at Egan's, so, I mean, not too far from here. And they said, we have this idea for a business, we want you to come out here, you've been running your business for some time, we wanted to hear how you would tackle this solution. So one was a friend and 2 others were guys I never met before. And what I didn't know then was those are my founders. So those are the people I was gonna start my second venture with. That was 5 years ago. We kind of came up with this idea all because of one reason. That was because I was saying yes more often. So I say yes to speak, I say yes when you need help. I encourage you to do the same. You'll find interns, which I have. I found some of my co-founders just by saying yes more often. You never know what kind of opportunities you're gonna come across. So if I take this whole journey from start to finish, it's gonna be difficult, it's gonna be fun, it's gonna be exciting, but I really want you to focus on simple steps. These are just simple. You have this Stroop waffle sitting in your hands, you're ripping open the package. You're eating a generic breakfast, you don't need to. You can have a great breakfast. Just take your time, use simple steps that other people are sharing tonight, and hopefully, as you kind of heard from my story, you have a little bit of direction as to what worked for me. It may not work for you, but hopefully it gives you a little direction. I'm always here to say yes if you have a question, happy to help you out. So thank you for your time. I'm fast, I give you guys 6 minutes for life.
There's questions specifically for him, and then
First, asking what happened in the first company. The first company, we actually sold the technology to the second company. It dissolved, and it was just kind of, we were running out of capital and figured that it was better to have it in a new place, and we eventually scaled that technology into a new business. Yeah.
So when you were going through the turmoil, chewing up money and everything of that nature, so your end point, you never really hit your end point, you sold, and that was fortunate. Was that because of networking and opening up instead of closing down?
Yeah, it was because I was starting to say yes. I went out to this dinner, and they were creating a solution that was complementary to what I was already working on. It was like, wow, like if I can bring this here and you guys have that, we could take this so much quicker, so much faster to market. So for me, it was just because I was out there, I had a little more confidence back as well, so I was able to communicate very effectively. They were feeling like, okay, this guy has a good solution for us to help us get to the next level as well, and I've done it for so long. So it was just, somewhat of hard luck. It was good luck, but also just hard work getting up there. Yeah. Mindset, of course. Yeah, teacher.
If you had a crystal ball for freshman year students coming in freshman year, and they said to you, create a program that you think would be the most beneficial, what would be a couple of things you'd want to see freshmen coming to college today in the economy we're in?
Yeah, I mean, I would say get real world experience and work with others that are doing interesting things. I mean, I probably graduated right when you did, and there was no kind of entrepreneur training. There was nothing, and we all kind of came out getting the standard job and doing what we needed to do and figuring out, hey, I could do it differently. So I think that what I'm seeing, I'm a Rutgers guy, and you guys know me as that, but Montclair State has unbelievable students, and Sharon does a great job, she does. But interns, and they're awesome, and I've been pretty fortunate enough to meet a lot of them and have them come work for us, and it was just a great experience, hopefully for them as well as is for me.
Hi, Clark. I actually work for Clark, and I wanted to know, you mentioned discipline. What are the top 3 disciplines that you follow every single day to ensure that your day starts off the way you want it to start off?
Yeah, the first thing I don't do is look at my phone. So, I'm telling you, we're all like, in bed with blue light on you. Don't do that. That's someone else's inbox, someone else's distraction, so I do not do that. I have my list the night before, so every night before I go to bed, I write down all the things I need to do, and you guys know that work with me. I send emails late at night because I'm grinding away late at night, but always first thing in the morning, I just start chopping away my list, no distractions. Get to the office before anyone else because I want to have no distractions as well, so I try to stay focused. And I want to get some family time, and I have a 12-week-old home, so I always want to spend some time with her because I know when I get home at night, it won't be quality time, it'll be crying time. So for me, I like to have that quality time where it says like, oh, I love my little girl. At nighttime, I'm like, who is this devil? She's your daughter, not mine. So for me, those are some important things. And also too, I really try, and I tell you, I preach this is so true for my story, to have some start and finish line, maybe once a year, a 5K, a walk, a breast cancer walk. The mindset that you're going to come out with after that is going to be incredible and so inspiring. So for me, that's something I always try to incorporate into my kind of regular activities and routines. Yes.
It seems like you have some amazing people around you. So what's kind of one of the things that you do to attract these great people into your life, especially working your business with you?
Yeah, I think, and Sarah will attest to it, I usually say during the interview process, can I imagine you at Sunday night dinner at my house? And I think of that. I hire character and talent, and we're going to figure out the problems and solutions together. I don't need to hire the brightest person in the room. For me, I want to hire someone that's going to stick with it when it gets difficult and challenging, because anyone that's run a business knows it's so insanely difficult and stressful. If you don't have someone in there that you can laugh with, cry with, and hug with, you're with the wrong people, in my opinion.
Okay. In the midst of something like looking at the end of the runway coming, do you ever find that independent of all the administrative struggles, you find that you get a little bit of an existential crisis about the idea's validity itself? And then if so, how did you sort of pull back from that and get into higher spirits on the idealistic side, in addition to having to manage all the real immediate problems?
For me, the way the entrepreneur that I am, I'm an operator. So I think of the idea and I just start systematically chopping away at it. I'm a list guy, I have everything, I have supreme discipline. So I have my vision and I refocus on that occasionally, but every day I'm just chopping away what I need to do. Like when I did the Ironman, for a perfect example, it was 8 months, I was like, I'm gonna do this race, and people thought I was ludicrous, but it was 1 mile a day. Then it became 3, then 5, then 10, then 12, then 20. And it was just simple because it was just a simple process. And entrepreneurship to me is if you can systematically build this business, you're going to have success versus always chasing, I want to exit my company, I want to solve the world's problems. It's impossible. In my opinion, it's impossible to do that. I find like I do a good job by a lot of people. I treat my employees right. We also give a lot of value to the customers that buy from us, which we have a health coaching platform, so we help people get healthier. And for us, we go to sleep at night with a smile because we're doing right by a lot of people.
You started a business with your founders you didn't know for a long time or something, so disagreements are bound to happen. How do you deal with disagreements?
Greco-Roman wrestling. I wish I'd probably come out on top a lot of times. It's difficult. We all have strong opinions. We're all A players. We all have a vested interest in the business. And sometimes you have to compromise. Much like a good marriage and a good relationship, you have to compromise. What I usually do to help better my case is I'm again, writing down lists of what I think are the pros and cons. I try to think of their approach and I role play with myself to see how they're going to answer me. And I'm going to be prepared for that answer. And I'm hopefully going to overcome that objection, hopefully get them to think more closely along my front. But it's not easy. Anyone that has partners, if I could go back in time, I would just pick 4 of me. But I think it might be bad because I also might do the wrong things because we have groupthink. So we all think we have a very diverse group of people that share different visions for how the business should get to where it should be. But it's definitely a lot of compromise. And it's difficult when you own a portion of the company, you have to compromise with others. Time's up. Sharon, you gotta get your phone working.
Well, just
Thank you, guys.
Okay, another great story. We don't have any what was it, Stroop waffles, but we do still have pizza left, so feel free, this is an informal environment, feel free to get up and get another slice of pizza, coffee, and I think there's some water. So next up is Anthony Frasier, does a whole bunch of different things, and his company is called ABF Creative, and he's going to tell you all about it.
Excuse me, I'm a little under the weather. I actually had a whole talk I was going to do, but a few entrepreneurs came up to me and told me, oh man, every time I hear your story, I'm so inspired. So I said, all right, well, I'm gonna just tell my story, because that's the easiest thing I could do. Yeah, he was right there. So he started his company, he was like, all right, if that inspired you, then maybe it can inspire some other people that might be in the room tonight. One more thing before I start is, yes, I do wear many hats. And so I am the venture investment advisor at Newark Venture Partners, which is a VC firm in Newark, New Jersey. And so we are accepting applications for an accelerator and interns. So see Sean right there if you want to apply or you're interested in an internship. Cool. So anybody in here, anybody shy? I mean, like super shy. A shy person wouldn't even raise their hand. See, that's me. Like, I'm the guy who come in the room, I sit in the back, I don't do anything. Somebody call on me, I'm like, nah, man, chill. Matter of fact, even when I came in here today, my brother, my guy right here, Mark, he was like, yeah, so you got your talk ready? I'm like, yo, chill, relax, find out. Let me sit in the back. Let me just kind of be low key, because that's just naturally who I am. And so if that's naturally who you are, sometimes, that was always a fault for me, when it came to being an entrepreneur, because usually when you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to be the opposite of that. You have to step up, you have to, jump out of your skin a little bit, and so a lot of my story involves me having to jump out of my skin. I remember a quote, I don't know who this came from, but he said, if you're not scared, then your opportunity is not big enough. And I used to just always just repeat that to myself anytime I ended up in a place where I was fearful. So my story starts at that moment, the kid in the back of the class, always shy. What I would do is I'll go home and play video games. I was the biggest gamer PlayStation, Xbox, PC, Steam, everything. That was my thing, and so because I was so good at video games, I stayed in the house a lot, and then what I would do is just, when I would get online, I would just start talking about video games with other people online. I had a little message forum where it was like a few other kids, they get online, they start talking about video games as well, and right now, that's like the cool thing to do when you look at Twitch. But back then, I was like, whoa, you a nerd, man, for real. And so, but I own that. I was a nerd at that time. And so what happened was, this website that we were on, it was me and a few friends, and we were on this website, and they had a section for video games, and we post every time. And then for some reason, we figured out the traffic for the website, and we saw that we were the #1 traffic source. Wait, hold up. Everybody's coming here to look at our opinions. Everybody's coming here to look at what we have to say. Well, why don't we start our own website up, right? And so I don't know who these guys were. One was from Dubai. One was from Houston, Texas. One was from Luton, somewhere in England somewhere. But we all had one thing in common, which was very interesting. We were all black. We were all African American. And so usually in the video game industry, you don't necessarily see black people talking about video games. You usually see, a guy in his the stereotypical nerd with the glasses in the basement, cheese doodles on the controller, But that's not how I grew up. When my uncle introduced me to video games, I was playing Tecmo Bowl. Anybody remember Tecmo Bowl? Yeah? Dang, I don't remember Tecmo Bowl? Man, that's crazy. I know I'm not even old. I don't even see how y'all. So, we were playing Tecmo Bowl. I know everybody knows Super Mario, everything like that. And so that's how I got introduced to video games. And so what we would do is we would get on this message board, talk. We were doing podcasts before podcasts were really popping. We were doing all types of reviews. So we said, okay, let's start our own website up. So we started a website up called thecoalition.com. It's still up today. We have about 6 writers. And what we did was we just post reviews, but they were all from an African American point of view, all from a black perspective. And that was missing in the video game industry. And so a lot of developers started flying us out, started taking us to the conferences, started doing, so we got all the perks, but it was just one thing missing from this equation. Anybody can guess it? Exactly. So all right, we made a few ads, but only thing I could do was buy a new pair of sneakers with this money. It wasn't like nothing I can earn a lot of, I can't get off my mother's couch with this kind of money. So what happened was I had to get a job. Unfortunately, that's the reality. I was working Kmart. I was taking boxes off the back of a truck at night. I had to work the night shift. They couldn't even give me a day job. So from 8 p.m. to 3 a.m., I couldn't even get out in the morning. It was like, no, you gotta leave at 3 a.m. And my brother who's here today, he used to always come pick me up. Like, oh man, I gotta get up and come pick your ass up, man. So, so that was interesting enough because he remembered those days. And I used to be in the car just frustrated. Like, oh, I hate this job so much. And so what happened was like, all right, I gotta figure out how do I make money? Because this thing isn't working. And so at that time, Mark Zuckerberg was really big in the news. He had the Facebook thing. This is around 2008, 2009, and Facebook at that time was just starting to really bubble. And so I was like, all right, well, I need to build a web app. I don't know what a web app is, but I gotta build it. So I found this business thing in Newark. It's called Greater Newark Enterprises Corporation, great organization. They said $50, we'll teach you how to build a business. I was like, oh, I need that. Let me go sign up. And then I go in there, I sign up, they teach me everything. Like feasibility plan, SWOT analysis, this, just all these different things. And I'm like, wow, this is so great. I'm learning everything I need to know. Well, at least I thought I did. And so what happened was I entered, this is no knock on this organization in particular, but I ended up getting an internship in Montclair from a company called Lagemann. I don't know if anybody knows that. No, nobody knows Lagemann. So it's a startup, tech startup called Lagemann. Ended up getting an internship there. Funny thing is, how I got the internship is through the coalition. We were getting about 250,000 hits a month at that point. And so I didn't have a college degree, and I still don't. But I was just using, the traction from my website to get me into some of these doors. And so that got me the internship. And so while I was doing this internship, I walked in, I remember it like the first day. I walked in and I went to the founder and I said, hey, where's your SWOT analysis? Where's your feasibility plan? They looked at me like I was crazy. And that's why I knew I was playing 2 different games. And the game that we're being taught, especially young people who want to get into tech startups, it's a lot different from what they're teaching us. Like, I'm not trying to start a barbershop. So you got to teach me something a little different. I need to learn what is it that you know so that I can go raise my own, money. So I sat under Lagemann for like a good 1.5 years. I learned everything from the founders, really learning, how to talk to developers, how to become a real CEO of a company. I learned the wrong things to do, the right things to do. And in about 1.5 years, Lagemann flipped. It failed. And that's like 80% of tech startups. That's one thing I learned as well. 80% of tech startups fail. And that was something that I'm not really used to either, because failure, where I come from, doesn't necessarily mean you can start it back again so fast. And so I had a backup plan though. The investor, this Russian guy, very aggressive. You can only meet with him if you agree to drink. If you don't drink with this guy, it's over. That's the kind of, and I sat down with him and I said, look, Lagemann's no more. I have this idea for this new startup. It's called Plaid. Will you invest in it? And he said yes. And he gave me $100,000. That was the best thing that ever happened to me and the worst thing that ever happened. So I took that money, I went, got to work. We started building the app. We started to do everything we needed to do to get the company off the ground. I saw that there was an accelerator in Silicon Valley called Numi Accelerator. I applied for it, didn't really think I would get in. The very next week, I get a call. They say, we need you to fly out to California and spend the summer with us. So, okay, now I get to go to Silicon Valley and build out this app, and I'm about to become rich. That's how everybody thinks it's gonna go. And so I fly out to Silicon. I've left out one big point. So when I'm on the phone with the accelerator, it said there's one big caveat. If you agree to come, you gotta agree to have CNN film everything. And so I agreed to that. That was another big mistake. So CNN, they followed us for an entire summer. We were out there in Silicon Valley. My whole journey ended up, I'm gonna fast forward a little bit in the interest of time. My whole journey is on YouTube. You can look it up. You can see me embarrassing myself. You can see me pitching in front of Google executives, fucking everything up. Like literally. And then you know it's TV, so they set us up. They say, yo, it's like, yeah, don't worry about nothing. Just come on in, come to Google, relax. We know you just got off the plane. Here's some food. We walk in the door, and there's like 3 seats there. I'm like, I don't know why these 3 seats are there, so I'm just gonna go eat, whatever. And they say, okay, everybody get ready for the Dragon's Den. I said, Dragon's Den? I don't know what this is, so I'm gonna just, sit down and enjoy the show. And then next thing you know, they say everybody line up the pitch. And then the Dragons Den has 2 Google executives. Yeah, right? That's another lesson. Always be ready to pitch. Always be ready to pitch. And unfortunately, my pitch, I messed up in front of 1 million people on CNN. So, that was one of my biggest mistakes ever. But I learned from it. Let me fast forward a little bit. I come home, we launched the app, it's called Played, it's Foursquare for video games. You scan it, any video game cover, the back of the box, it'll scan everything, upload your system, upload your gamer points, all into a cloud. It's basically almost like a loyalty system for video games. GameStop built the app just like it, didn't want to acquire me, that's cool. The app failed. Mine's did too. But it's all good, That's what, 80% of startups do. It failed. I come home, app failed, we had 30,000 active users in 3 months, but we still couldn't really get any revenue going. And so, our time clock was, ticking, and I started to have a big disagreement with one of my investors. And so, because everything really happened in the wrong way, matter of fact, the one investor was the guy that I knew who took a chance on me in the beginning. And because he took a chance on me, he owned a large percentage of the company without me knowing it. And so that was another big problem. And I didn't really discover that until I had Silicon Valley investors lawyers tell me when I was in California. So I had to discover that when I was in California. And so I don't regret any of that. Matter of fact, I'm still grateful for this guy. He gave me a shot, gave me an opportunity, I took advantage of it. But at the same time, that's something that you guys gotta look out for. Look out for the paper gangsters. They real. So right now, today, I'm gonna fast forward, I don't know how much time I got. 1.5 minutes. Wow, that went by fast. So right now, today, I am the CEO of ABF Creative. What we do is we create branded podcasts for corporations. So some of our clients include Prudential, the Brooklyn Museum, BET, a few others. And so what we do is we kind of help these large companies talk to multicultural audiences the right way. Right now, our narratives aren't really being told the way they're supposed to be. And so that's what I'm all about now. I'm all about telling narratives the way they're supposed to be. And so a lot of my life, especially in tech, has been about how do you be a good translator? How do you take the experiences that you've been through and put them out in a way that other people can relate to them? And I think my story does that. I think there's a few young people in here who can relate to that. And so I think that everything I do in my business, I wanted to do the same thing. That's it.
Okay, another inspiring story. Thank you, Anthony. So last but not least, we have Mike Luzio with the LVE Group. Please welcome Mike.
I probably do not need the mic, but we're going to use it. And I was hoping, is it on? And what I was hoping was the pizza was still over there, because I thought if it was gone, everyone would get out of here. So it's good to see everybody. Clark, thank you for asking me to come up here a little bit last minute. Here's the interesting thing about me. I'm a Jersey kid. Grew up in Matawan, New Jersey, Monmouth County kid. Great town, diverse town. Loved it. Loved every minute of it. Played football. I was in the school musicals. Loved it. I think I liked the musicals better, although I did like football a lot too. But that's where I grew up. So my roots are here in New Jersey. Went to the University of Maryland. Didn't know what I wanted to do. Was never thought of or thought I was going to be an entrepreneur. My father was in law enforcement. My mother was a teacher. So I didn't grow up with money. I grew up middle class, but I had everything. We had everything we needed. I got to Maryland. I did not know what I wanted to do. I worked hard, put myself through school with the help of my parents. And when I was getting out, the conversation was, what do I want to do with my life? I said, I'm going to be a lawyer. That's what I want to do, because I like to talk to people. I like to be engaging with people. And I met a person my senior year. The gentleman's name was Sam Chamberlain. He's now the chief operating officer at Five Guys. He ran a recruiting firm. And after talking to me for a while, he said, look, you should try out sales. Try your hand in sales, because I think you'd be good at it. He says, 1998, dot-com boom, and he said to me, I want you to go sell copier machines. And I said, copier machines? I'm not going to go sell copier machines. That's not what I'm about. And he said, listen, it's the hardest thing to do in the world, selling copier machines, because no one wants to buy a copier machine. 1998, I made $87,000, and I said, I think I like this sales thing. This is where I should be. But I needed to get into the dot-com race, and I wanted to move back here to New Jersey. I moved into New York, worked for a dot-com. I had a very successful 3-year run, working for a company that had absolutely no idea what they were doing. But they were growing. And a lot of us remember that dot-com boom. 1998, 90, 2000, 2001. I learned a ton on how not to run a business. Still, never wanting to be an entrepreneur. 2000 hits, and I realized that I need to get a real job. I need to work for a large corporation, and I went to work for Sprint. It was 2000, 2001, had an opportunity to go work for Sprint and sell to large corporations, and I needed that because I was in a dot-com mode, and I didn't know what I was doing. It was beer, it was ping pong, it was pool, and again, some of us remember that. It was a really funny situation, and it wasn't real. I went to work for Sprint, and I did well there. I was a global acquisitions manager, moving up the ranks, making very good money, and someone said to me, you know, Mike, one day in 40 years, you can be the CEO of Sprint. I go, no way am I standing here for 40 years. So someone came to me with an idea when I was 27 years old and said, I've got an idea. And I won't bore you with the idea, but he came to me and said, I think we can do this. I think we can go out and start our own company. And again, never thought about being an entrepreneur. And the reason I say that is because nowadays, being an entrepreneur is really cool, right? And it's cool if you're an entrepreneur. 25 years ago, you know, as Gary Vaynerchuk might say, you know, it's like someone said they were an entrepreneur 25 years ago. That means you were sleeping on your parents' basement and doing nothing. Now it's cool. Now there's great things like here at the Feliciano Business School, entrepreneur stuff. It's great. But at the end of the day, I wasn't ready when I was 21.
I needed to get my sea legs. So for 6 years, I worked in the corporate world, and I figured it out. And the idea came to me, and my aha moment in New York City at 380 Madison Avenue was I was contemplating making this jump. And I thought to myself, if I make this jump and start this business, and it doesn't work, in 3 years I can come back and do the same thing I was doing. And I think that's important for people to understand. But we were sitting in a meeting, corporate meeting in Manhattan, bagels, orange juice, miserable. I hated Monday morning meetings. And a guy comes in, his name was Bill, and he starts touching every bagel. Now, Bill was an old timer. He was in his 60s, and he's touching every bagel. And I have no idea what he was doing. And he goes, I said, Bill, what are you doing? He goes, well, I'm feeling for the most tender bagel so I can have it. And I look, and I'll excuse the expletive, and I said, Bill, are you going to touch every bagel on there? And at that point, I knew my career at Sprint was over. So I walked into my GM, Mike Dessa, he was great, and I said, Mike, I think I'm going to leave and start my own company. And Mike said, Mike, you're a rising star here. You'll be the CEO in 40 years. I'm like, yeah, but we got a huge HR issue, and it's about to go down. So I left. And I took $15,000, I had a business partner at the time, and we built a IT services company, and it was epic. It was awesome, and guess what? I can still barely turn on my iPhone, but I can sure as hell sell that thing. We took the company, 2004 to 2008, bootstrapped the business with $15,000. And 2008 hits, and a lot of us who were over 40 remember 2008 was a crazy year. Stock market took a dip. It was miserable. We thought we were riding high. Clark talked about it before. You think you're riding high until you're not. I hired a CFO. I called it my old white hair because he had white hair and he was old and he was perfect because I was young and energetic and I needed that person around me to keep me grounded. And in 2008, Glenn McAvoy comes into the room and says, we're going to be bankrupt in 3 months. And like Clark said, everyone's like, hey, Luzio, you're doing great. Look at him. He's kicking ass, taking names, right? He's amazing. And I thought I was too. Little did I know we were about to go bankrupt. You have to look yourself in the eye at that point, and a lot of you who are entrepreneurs in here right now are probably saying to yourself, well, I'm kind of at an inflection point. Some of the younger people are thinking about what they're going to do. Some of the people who are more my age are saying, well, how do I move forward? I got this idea and I want to move forward, but I'm at an inflection point. Well, that inflection point was go to my executive team and tell them, we're cutting salaries or you're fired because we need to raise capital on our own, meaning we needed to raise our own capital, meaning our salaries. And we did not take a salary for a year. And from that point on, the company skyrocketed. In 2013, I sold the business for just short of $60 million. And it was unbelievable for a kid from a middle-class family whose father was in law enforcement, whose mother was a teacher, because I was humbled. And I remember back to my .com days when I saw a lot of paper millionaires. Those are people who had companies that took them public. Everyone's patting them on the back, telling them they're the greatest things since sliced bread. And they all wanted to be billionaires. And they could have walked, and they didn't. And I was a family guy. I have 3 kids. Today they're 10, 10, and 6. When I sold the business, they were 6, 6, and 1. And I said to myself, it's time to be Father of the Year, not Entrepreneur of the Year. And we sold the business in 2013. I stayed on board in a transitional period for 3 more years. And in 16, I left. And I said, and I had an opportunity to sit down and have dinner with, some of you guys probably know this guy, his name is Gary Vaynerchuk, who's a friend of mine. And Gary and I sat down, and Gary Vee said, well, what do you want to do? I said, well, I'm never going to work for a company again, but I want to inspire people. I want to share my story with people to let them know that middle-class kid who had good parents but didn't have money was able to turn $15,000 into just short of $60 million. And it's doable. And I'm not that smart. But I surrounded myself with incredibly smart people. So as entrepreneurs, as you sit out here, Clark knows this. What's your first name again? Surround yourself with people like Diana. That's what I did. I went out and found the right people to surround myself with. And that's what you should be thinking about right now. How do you do that? How do you surround yourself with the right people? Because that's what I did. So when I sat down with Vaynerchuk, he said to me, what do you like to do? I like to have a nice glass of bourbon. I like talking to people. And I like entrepreneurs. And he goes, well, figure that out. And I said, okay. So I decided to start a company called the LVE Group. Although my wife at the time says, wait, why are we starting another company? And I said, because I'm an entrepreneur and that's what we do. You know, I think a lot of people don't understand. Even though I had this exit, a lot of people think you're going to sit back and you're going to golf and it's on easy street. It's not me. It's just not in me. I wanted to work, and I wanted to work with young entrepreneurs, middle-aged entrepreneurs, any entrepreneurs, men and women. And I founded a group called the LVE Group, Luzio versus everybody, because I always felt my whole life that's what it was. When I played football in high school, I was 5'10", 220 pounds, and quite slow. But I willed myself to be an all-state football player. And when I went out for the school musicals, all my football player buddies said, you're crazy, what are you doing? You're going to give us a bad rap here. But I became the lead in the musicals, and I loved it. So it was always about challenging myself. And I didn't care what anyone thought. Always was able to step outside of my comfort zone. And as an entrepreneur, you have to be able to do that. You have to be able to say to yourself, I need to step outside of my comfort zone. I need to be uncomfortable. You know, the three people who spoke before me, Clark, who I know personally, he knows that all too well, right? You're gonna have your ups and downs. 2008 was a really shitty year. The good news is, my twins were born. The bad news is, I thought we were gonna lose everything. But at the end of the day, perseverance is key. Surrounding yourself with the right people is key. Coming to events like this is key. I love having opportunities to sit and talk to people like this because, like the other three entrepreneurs, we know what it's like. I know what the hustle's like. I know what the grind. When you're sitting up here talking before, I've been in your shoes, all right? No one gave me a silver spoon and said, get after it. It was 7 days a week of grind. I said to my business partner, Chris, who's with me tonight, I said, I would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, work till 8, kiss my kids, send them off to wherever they were going, work an 8-hour day, have dinner, everyone goes to sleep, and pick up another 4 hours, right? So I pick up an extra 8 hours a day. And then I just looked at myself and I said, well, everyone else is working 8, I'm working an extra 8. So I'm working 40 more hours a week. I'm working 160 more hours a month. Start doing the math. It's huge numbers. And that's what it takes. People talk about, hey, work smart, not hard. I totally disagree. Work hard and work smart. Be focused, surround yourself with the right people, and you will succeed. So the LVE Group looks to work with people like you who have ideas, who can build a business, and I want to sell that business for $100 million. I walk in, I give you capital, access to my network, access to me, and we figure out how to blow your business up. And we've had some successful early runs and exits in businesses, and I love it. Passion is key. People pitch to me all the time. Right? Who said always have your pitch ready? Always have your pitch ready. Because at the end of the day, I might be sitting in an elevator, and you might sit next to me and say, I've got an idea, or I've got a business started. And I say, go ahead, hit it. Let me hear what you got. And if the answer is, I got a great jockey, I can build this business and help sell it for $100 million, and I got 11 more points. The asterisk on the bottom is I'd like to have a cocktail with the founder, but that's a whole other story. Someone said to me, don't you love having a drink with the guy or the gal? I said, yeah, I love it. It's important to me because I need somebody to be personal. Right? I'm done, right? I exited, I'm good. But I want to do it again and again. And that jockey who I'm going to work with, I better want to be able to hang out with them. I don't care if they're 18, 28, 38, 58. All of you guys have it in you. And the fact that you're all standing here and taking time out of your day and eating probably pretty shitty pizza and listening to the three of us and me, kudos to you. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to listen to me. Any questions?
There's 1 minute left, so we'll do a quick question, then we'll bring
One question? Not one? Up. Hit it. Fellow Terp, go for it.
What type of industries Listen, I get that question all the time. Everyone thinks, oh, you're going to go with IT companies. I actually don't love doing that because it's not as fun. Any business that I can look at the jockey and say, this person's a winner. I don't know if they're going to win at this or something else. Let me look at the business, take an hour. If I like it, get my team involved, look it through. It doesn't matter. I mean, we've got investments all over the map. Product investments, IT companies, it doesn't matter. Whatever I believe I can look at, help activate my vast network and help it grow, it doesn't matter to me, right? Business is business at the end of the day. People say that all the time, but I truly, truly mean it. When you peel back the layers, the onion layer, it's all the same up until about 10%. So business is business. Good? All right, thank you very much.
Right on time.
So if you can get the four to come up here, we'll pull these chairs up. And we have two mics here. Okay, so you have questions?
This is from Lauren. What price point are you at, like, with your product? Like, what's your price point?
Yeah.
So, that's the one thing with US labor, at the stage I'm at and the minimums that I'm making, my cost is rather high. But I have bags as low as $75, like this little belt bag that converts to a crossbody, stadium-friendly size. And then ones that go into the higher end range of $450 for custom order. And that's where I could go source whatever colors you're looking for, you can customize a number, things like that. So $75 to $450, made in the US.
Are you trying to scale up, like, into, like, retailers, or?
That's online is your most friendly route right now, and then the pop-up shop I've had has been wonderful because there's no middleman, but my cost is rather high to have the go the route of a retailer. Yeah, the markup of a retailer.
I have a question for the gentleman in the cap. You said that you were involved in some business transaction or whatever. You had some papers drawn up. There was something wrong with the papers. You got screwed out or whatever. If you had to do it again, how would you go about it?
If I had to do it again, I'll just make sure I had a lawyer before I signed anything. That's that simple. You know, to me, I don't regret anything. I think, you know, I was just young. You know, I don't want to use the word desperate, but desperate, you know, for lack of a better term. You know, I was just a kid with great ideas and not necessarily wanting to handle the other side. I was just like, hey, I got this idea, and I wasn't really thinking about anything else. But I would just make sure I get lawyered up real fast. I would do that even if you ain't got no money. You do it right now. Yeah.
I'll just add to that. So I actually did lawyer up when I started the business. Got all my paperwork together, then I had investors come in and we were buttoned up and they invested without thinking twice and we protected our interest. So it worked out really well for us. At the time it was a significant amount of expense. I mean, we're talking $30,000, $40,000 I spent to get everything done. I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? But I just was always thinking towards the long term, the protection, and I buttoned up everything and I was protected long term.
If I was the intern for you this summer, could I take you?
Like Mr. Luzio said, just hard work, you know what I mean? Like, you know, work, 24 hours, 365. Now, you know, just, to me, I think it's all about just experience. I think the experience itself, for me, I did a lot of things just to be in the room. You know, to me, like he was just saying, you know, coming to meetups like this, You know, when you didn't think nobody would be there. There was plenty of times where I went to meetups, so there's only 5 people in the room. But, you know, one of those 5 people, I'll give you an example. It was one meetup I went to in Newark. Matter of fact, it was a meetup I held. And it was only like 5 people. One of those guys is like the executive at WeWork now. You know, like you just don't know who's in the room now or who they're gonna become. You know, so to me, I just putting yourself out there, becoming available. You know, I think the other panelists could definitely, you know, tell you what an internship, how valuable an internship could be. But definitely that's what you'll get if you intern with me. And if you're interested, you know, talk to me.
So something I'll say is relationships, they're key. They're the most important thing, in my view, more so than anything. You know, I learned from a mentor of mine, his name is Shelby Bryan. He said, you know, he's Anna Wintour's husband. There you go. Shelby Bryan said to me, I went out to dinner with him and I went to the Harvard Club in New York State. And I was like, the Harvard Club? What matter what? And he said, he was walking in, he was talking to everybody. I mean, shaking everybody's hand. And he said, what? I said, how do you know everybody? He goes, I make it my business to know everybody in the room. And I literally take that to heart. I try to make it my business to know everyone in the room. Shake a hand, get to know somebody on somewhat of a personal level, and you have absolutely no idea where that's going to take you. And I can assure you, if I didn't listen to that advice in 2007 at the Harvard Club, no chance I'm here sitting here talking to you guys. No chance.
Let me add to that. No, because he's 120% correct. I would say, you know, a lot of people are like, oh man, how'd you land these clients? Every single client that I had, somebody I knew. Somebody I don't have no magic cold email. Like, that's a cold email rarely works. I mean, I'm not gonna say it doesn't work, but it rarely works. It really does come from those relationships, man. Like, you know, I think you hit it right on it now.
Questions for the panel. All of you appear to be pretty busy. What role do books play in your life, if any?
I will take that one. I am an avid reader, sometimes reading 10 books at a time. It just depends what I'm interested in that day. And I think they're a wealth of information, and if you find the right ones that really speak to you and that you can take key points from and apply them to what you're doing, I mean, it's a really, really amazing way to get a lot of valuable information.
I'll jump in. It's good when you ask different people the same question, you probably get different answers. I don't see the value in books. The reason why I say, to be truthful, it's old information. So I look at what Mike's doing. I look at content online that I consume very quickly. I look at that because it's fresh, it's daily. I can make quick, educated decisions on it. So for me, that's what I usually use. So this is kind of a running joke over at the LVE Group. I also don't read books. I'm surprised that I'm even literate. I do read Sports Illustrated, The Post. I think that's it. I've read a few books. I will tell you, early on in my career, books were important to me. It doesn't mean books shouldn't be important, but my favorite book that I think and I call it my Bible, and I mean it. I actually read this one, I think, front to back, is Good to Great. It's an amazing book. You should read it. It was kind of like my Bible, if you will, for being an entrepreneur. But Good to Great was great. But I'm not a Jim Collins. I'm not a reader, right? I'm very current on what's going on in the world and what have you. But I have the patience of nothing. The fact that I'm sitting here and not fidgeting. Chris is over there with the camera, and he's probably thinking, as soon as that question came out, he's laughing his ass off because he knows the joke is I don't read. And my son, who's 10 years old, I ask him all the time, he won't read either. And he goes, but Dad, you don't read. I go, no, I read. I don't read. I don't read. I look at my wife, and I don't read. What the hell am I supposed to say to the kid? So, I don't know.
I definitely read. And you know, I get a lot of information. I just like reading, you know, just to get a little bit of history on like other CEOs. You know, it's definitely old knowledge, but it's definitely something that I just think I could consume and really learn from a lot of these older CEOs and just from their lives, really. I don't really like business books like I used to. So really, is it really a business book that I'm reading? It's more like a biography or something like that. Like to me, reading about someone's life, how they made decisions, who they surrounded themselves with. Like to me, those are the best books that for me at least personally.
You not only read, you write.
Yeah.
An awesome book.
Yeah, so I'll get the audiobook version for these two.
Totally. That's it.
But I do have a book. I try not to be the super entrepreneur today, but yeah, I do have a book. Don't Dumb Down Your Greatness is the book, and it's on Amazon and wherever books are sold. So definitely, don't dumb down your greatness. Thank you.
How do you prospect for a new business? Because like what you do, I don't know anyone else that does that. Going to like big companies and doing podcasts.
Well, he just, it's relationships, to be honest with you. When I got into, this, I tried not to use relationships. Try to send a few emails out, try to get something going. Didn't really work. Especially since it's high ticket. And usually when something is like super high ticket, it takes a lot, the sales cycle is super long. Yeah. Not a year. It could be three months the minimum, but not a year. It hasn't taken me a year to close a deal. But yeah, when you got a high ticket price, usually it's gonna take longer. Why, you trying to sell something that's expensive? Okay. Oh, no, don't say that. Don't say that. Don't use it. There you go.
All of you have been talking about, always be preaching and be prepared to give your pitch anytime, or as Clark, you mentioned, always say yes to things. How do you do all that while protecting your idea?
I'm just going to say, I honestly, ideas are a dime a dozen, execution is key. I've been sitting here advising startups for probably 10 years, and not that I hear the same idea often, but to get it off the ground, I grinded, like everyone here, but I will tell you, no one outworked me for a fact. It was impossible. I worked every minute I was awake. Most people don't have that drive. Now I have a baby and I'm like, wow, I literally worked every minute I was awake, and now I can't do that because I have other responsibilities, so it slowed me down a little bit, but I still probably work more than anyone else in this room, maybe, except for some people, but I'm literally going all the time. So a great idea is one thing, but getting it off the ground and getting people to buy for it, like a product market fit, being someone to give you their credit card to pay for it, totally different story.
I think you're perfect to answer this, right? Because she's I talk about white space all the time. You want to find that white space where nobody isn't, there's nothing there, right? She's found and I agree with you, because I was at a sporting event yesterday down in Maryland. I saw Maryland lose to Michigan, and damn it. And my wife was, it's so funny, my wife was going, oh my God, I gotta get one of those tiny little bags and it's gotta be clear and it's blah, blah. You found a white space. The thing is though, there's no patent on that white space. There are big companies who could absolutely positively come in and say, I don't care about her, I'm just gonna do that. How do you answer that question?
Know your value and know what makes you different. And that's it. Know what makes you you, know what you're bringing to the table, know those brand values you hashed out, stick to them, because that's what people know you for, and they will continue to know you for.
I would ask the same kind of similar question to all four of you with content today. I would tie in learning and application and books and that type of thing, but today I'm 42, so the way I consume content to speak to an audience is very, very different today, right? It's reading, it's not so much reading anymore, it's scanning. It's a lot of attention grabbing and very short bits of content. You've got a lot of listening that goes on, podcasting, those types of things. Each of you guys, how have you made content a part of what you're doing, and how much, where can you improve? Where do you think you can get better?
How many people know Gary Vaynerchuk? A lot of you guys know who he is? He's content, right? For me, everyone thought it would be very easy stepping out of my comfort zone, because I can see you asked the question, who's shy? I'm not. I've made content an essential part of this next business that I'm running. From Instagram to LinkedIn to some degree Facebook, but not so much. I think it's key. Putting out content daily, you know, and whatever that content is, it's content. I mean, look, you got to steer clear of certain subjects without question, but at the end of the day, I constantly am putting out content on social media. I think it's a big part of it. I'm sure you're looking to grow your social media brand. Social can crush it. They can blow companies up overnight. Don't be afraid of it. And at 42, I'm the same age as you. It was hard for me too, right? To embrace that kind of millennial feel, if you will, that sub 30. Who gives a shit? Just put it out there. I mean, at the end of the day, what do you care? This is what's being an entrepreneur. Being embarrassed is what's being an entrepreneur. Him telling his friends, patting him on his back, and him realizing they're running through money, yeah, it's embarrassing. It is what it is. Just put it out there. I don't care what anyone thinks of me. I just don't. 10% of people are probably not going to like me, and hopefully 90% do. But at the end of the day, I don't care. I'm a good person, I'm a good father, and I can look myself in the mirror at the end of the day when I go to sleep. And I did everything honestly, and I never screwed anyone over. And at the end of the day, that's how you got to go about life, in my opinion. Sorry, I get a little angry on that sometimes. Yeah.
So, knowing that ideas are a dime a dozen, what advice do you have to somebody that has a lot of ideas and isn't sure which one is the one to really push forward with?
Which one hurts the most? What's your personal pain point? I was in the grocery store the other day trying to get one of the vegetable bags off, and I was there for like 5 minutes trying to find the open, and it wouldn't open. I looked like an idiot, and I was like, when is someone going to think of a better way? So it's whatever your pain point is, and I think the one that you can speak to the most will resonate the most, because I think that authenticity will come through.
And you know that idea. You know the one. If you've got 10 of them, there's 2 of them in there that you're like, damn it, this is where my passion is at. It's all about passion, right? Because the more passion you have, and he's talked about it, everybody's talked about it, you're going to want to get up in the morning. It's going to feed you. It's going to fuel you every single morning. You're going to think about it. You're going to dream about it. It's awful. It consumes you. And I think great entrepreneurs, that's what happens. I mean, I love it. I love getting up for work every day. I really do. And my wife thinks it's kind of crazy, but I really do. Because work is my hobby. And I think it's similar to you.
I was to say, the way I think of things, I'm an operator, I'm systems, I'm process, and the way I tackle that problem, which I have great ideas all the time, I sort of think of user testing, product market fit, taking survey to 10 of my friends, and what is a nice to have is not good enough. What is a must have is now where you want to start focusing your attention on. Iterate, build something quickly. I mean, you can go through all those ideas pretty quickly and find out outside like the emotion of just testing and getting market feedback is so critical as well.
I find people to give them to. To me, it's really just, giving away ideas is just as valuable as, working on one yourself. You just don't know what it can blossom into, And so, try that, give ideas away. Just write down 10 ideas and give them away. Never know what happens.
What do you do when you are really good at what you do, but you're lacking in the skill set that will move your business forward?
I mean, from my standpoint, it's real simple, right? I'm good at like 2 things. Like, I'm not even kidding. I'm really not even kidding. Good at building relationships, I'm good at sales, and I think I'm good at leading. At the end of the day, I'm not really super organized. I'm definitely not super technical, right? You gotta find people to fill those holes that love that piece. If you got, I hate contracts. I mean, I hate reading. You know what I'm talking about? I mean, you gotta find those people and plug them in those holes that love reading contracts, that are super operational. That's what their passion is. I took 95% of what I do is sales, leadership, and building relationships, and I found people around me as I started to grow the business and plugged them in those holes. That's it.
Well, that's what I'm lacking.
What are you lacking?
Sales and marketing.
I mean, I could be a VP of sales for you if you want. I'm happy to come on board.
So I'll say, you don't really have time for training wheels all the time. Sometimes you got time to sit there, and that's why I don't, I agree with them with the no books thing. Forget a book. I need somebody to just jump in here immediately who knows how to do this. There was times, especially me building a media company, I've been in the tech world for most of my, career. And so when I jumped into the media world, I'm like, this producing thing seems easy. I can produce. And I read a few books, saw a few blogs. Nah, I can't produce. I had to go find somebody who really knows how to do that, because that is in itself is so time consuming. I'm like, wait, I don't have time to do this, and it really takes someone who's organized, like you said, someone who could do all I'm not organized either, so I have to fill in those blanks immediately. There's no book in the world that can save you from that.
For those in the earlier stages of things or still students, I think something that's important too is just self-awareness. Know what you're good at. Don't be afraid to admit what you're bad at. Be real with yourself. Don't be afraid to ask for help. And find a mentor. Find someone who has been through it. They can point you in the right direction, or point you to someone in their network that is able to help you out.
One last thing, as someone who bootstrapped the business, took no outside capital, by the way, if you're going that route, you're gonna have to wear every hat. You're gonna have to do everything in the business when you start it out. I was doing the billing, I was doing the sales, I was doing the ops. I mean, when you're a 1 or 2 man show, listen, that's why I loved it when 4 or 5 years into my company and the person said, I just can't do this job. I'm like, I did that job. Don't tell me you can't do that job, right? I did your job. I sent bills out. I made the customer service phone calls. Don't tell me you can't, or I'll find somebody who can, right? So if you're bootstrapped, you're not taking outside capital, listen, you're gonna have to wear every single hat. Deal with it.
When do you think you should take outside capital?
So I sat and I did a conference down in DC, and it was me, a bootstrap guy, and an outside capital guy. And that question came up. And it's weird because I'm sitting next to a guy who took $10 million in outside capital, and I didn't. So I was like, I don't want to offend the guy. Listen, if you've got an idea though that's really good, and you feel like you've got a business that's good, and the only way to take that business from 0 to 100 is by taking outside capital, do it. All right? I'm not here to sit here as a bootstrap guy. I'm prouder. Look, I might have had a bigger business if I took outside capital. But at the end of the day, if you've got an idea and you've got a business going and you need capital to make that thing run and go outside and seek capital. And it can be very difficult. Friends and family can be difficult. I get it. I didn't do it. I asked a good friend of mine who runs a company in the city, I said, how did you ask your mom and dad and uncle and brother for money? And he said, they didn't believe in the company, they believed in me. And I think that's important. If the people believe in you, they'll write that check for $10,000, $25,000, right? Because it's you. They don't know shit about the company you're starting. They know you, and they're betting on you. So it's when the time is right, all right? And you'll know when the time is right. Fair enough?
And I'll just add to it, do it before you think the time is right as well. Like start building relationships now, start going and talking to people, become friends, and start updating people on your business, because you should be asking someone that day, write a check for me. You should be building a relationship for 6 months. They want to see your success, see your progress, see the growth you've had. It would just make your life a heck of a lot easier to secure the capital.
Maybe take 1 or 2 more questions.
If you're thinking of taking money from friends and family, wouldn't it make sense to really lay the groundwork? Like every penny of this money is very likely to go, and this is going to turn into zero, to preserve the relationship and be able to look them in the eye in 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, as someone that raised friends and family, then took on VC money for my first business, absolutely. That's why I spent $40,000 on lawyers to get paperwork to make sure Grandma and Betty and everyone knew their money was going to go away. And it wasn't quite as coarse as that, but I mean, they, just like Mike said, they were investing in me, and everyone that bought in invested in me and the jockey, because that's what every great investor looks at. I'm going to bet on the jockey because the jockey's going to figure it out eventually. So, I mean, I did that.
Don't bullshit anybody, right? I'm serious, right? If you've got to go out and raise $100,000 in capital because that's what's going to take you honest. You're going to be honest because you're going to feel like shit if you're not honest. I mean, this is just me, right? It's how I was raised. This is my mom and dad talking. But at the end of the day, be honest, be open, because at the end of the day, if it goes, it goes. It's a risk. We get it, but they're betting on you.
And I'll just add to that. I mean, everyone that invested in my first business, they didn't make back all their return. They are still very close to me. They're always asking about me. They're always helping me because I did it with integrity. I was very transparent. And they knew that most businesses are going to fail, honestly. It is just the facts of life. And they're willing to take that gamble on enough companies to get the big ones that they need.
What do you guys know now that you wish you knew when you first started?
You got this one. You talked about it.
Okay, let's have all of you answer this one.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing I wish I knew, I would say is the biggest, I mean, it's a lot. If I had to pick one specific thing, I would just say not really caring what anybody thinks. I think that one piece is the underlying, I would say the underlying issue with everybody has different personality types. And for me, I think that was the one thing that held me back the most. It's not really, because then that stopped me from stepping up at the times where I probably could have. Stopped me from, putting something out there or asking. And, a lot of times entrepreneurs, they got a big ask, and for me, we're not, when we're the way I was raised and where I come from, we're not used to asking for a lot of money, because we feel a lot of shame in that, and so a lot of entrepreneurs of color, especially African Americans, they don't really ask for a big price, you know what I'm saying? And so I had to teach that in myself, and then learn that from a lot of mentors who retaught that to themselves. And so, it's a mind state thing for me, personally.
For me, kind of as I was telling my stories, you're not alone. The depression that I went through and the stress and anxiety, and I just was like, I can't believe this, how ashamed I was and how embarrassed. And when I realized after I came through it, I started talking about it. People were like, I feel like that too. And I've had literally grown men crying in a room, sharing their stories with me. I'm like, damn, why didn't you tell me that 3 years ago? I would have felt like such a loser for 6 months. Are you kidding me? So I think that the biggest thing for me would have made me feel so much more confident and comfortable in the position I was in was that most of you are going to go through it, and it's all right, you're not alone.
Some things are completely out of your control. So as much as you can plan and prepare and cross your T's and dot your I's, some things are just not in your control, and you just need to figure out how to roll with it and take back control eventually.
I lost a lot more than I won in my career. That's a fact, okay? But at the end of the day, I worked incredibly hard, and if I still lost the deal, I could still look myself in the mirror and say I gave 120%, and I still lost the deal. It's okay. That shit is gonna happen. You're going to lose more than you're going to win. And a lot of you are sitting out here with great ideas or companies that you're running. And at the end of the day, people are gonna slam that door in your face way more than they're gonna open it. But just keep knocking and realize that we've all been through it. You guys have all been through it. It only takes one yes. It only takes one yes for your life to change. So remember that while you're going through your journey.
Great. All right. So hopefully these guys will stick around for a little bit.
Is there any pizza left? I'm just saying it's probably nice and...
There's like 4 full pies.
Those are mine.
Especially if you're student going to Lawrence, please take a whole box, grab a plate, there's some napkins. So have some pizza, maybe they'll stick around and talk a little bit more. And if you are not a member of Montclair Entrepreneurial Meetup, please join. And thank you for coming. Thank you
Absolutely.
for the speakers.
Connect up with us all on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is huge. Connect with us on LinkedIn. Social media.